All right, everybody, welcome back. You know we love to dig into the nitty-gritty of what's really going on in these crazy real estate markets. And this time, we're diving headfirst into Miami luxury rentals.
Yeah, Miami. Always a hot topic, right?
Always. And listeners, you know you guys drive the show, and you've been flooding my inbox with questions about Miami. Everyone wants to know, is it still booming? Is it a good investment? Well, we found some fresh insights from some real estate pros that, frankly, have us scratching our heads a little. It's not as straightforward as you might think.
Yeah, it's definitely not a simple up and down situation in Miami right now. On the surface, yeah, the rental market's looking pretty strong.
Right. Business as usual. Miami prices keep climbing.
Well, that's the thing. You'd expect that, wouldn't you, with how desirable Miami is? But the devil's in the details here. We're seeing that overall trend, like in Brickell, Miami Beach, even Coconut Grove, generally small increases in rental rates.
Okay, so holding steady makes sense. Those are prime spots.
Exactly. But and this is where it gets interesting, our sources point to some specific luxury buildings where rents are actually down.
Down, like significantly. I thought luxury was immune to these kinds of dips.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But we're talking places like Icon Brickell, SLS Lux Brickell, Park Grove, even Continuum. These are all down 3–4%.
Wow. Okay, that IANT's notable. So what gives? Why are these particular buildings defying the Miami magic?
Well, one word. Competition.
Ah, right. Newer, shinier buildings popping up all the time.
You got it. These new places are coming in hot with all the bells and whistles. I'm talking state-of-the-art gyms, rooftop pools that'll make your jaw drop, concierge services that'll handle your dry cleaning and walk your dog.
Okay, so basically making these older buildings look a little meh.
Pretty much. And it's not just about the flash. These older buildings, even if they're in a great location, they often come with these hefty assessments.
Oh, you mean those fees on top of rent? Don't even get me started on those. Explain that to our listeners who might not be familiar, though.
Right, so imagine you score this amazing luxury apartment, top floor, killer views, the whole 9 yards. You're feeling great. Then, bam, you get hit with a monthly assessment that's like an extra $2,000 on top of your already sky-high rent.
Yeah, no thanks.
It's a real buzzkill. And these assessments, they're usually for building upkeep, renovations, that kind of thing. But if the building's having financial issues...
Let me guess. That means amenities get cut.
Bingo. Suddenly, that gorgeous pool you were promised is closed for repairs indefinitely, and that fancy gym is now a storage room for broken pool chairs.
See, this is why we do this deep dive, people.
Yeah.
It's the stuff they don't tell you in the brochures. So we've got new buildings stealing the spotlight, older buildings with potential financial burdens, and let's not forget the whole seasonal factor, right? Miami's got that snowbird effect.
You're absolutely right. Remember how Miami rentals went through that crazy surge last year? Part of that was just the seasonality, especially in areas like Coconut Grove, which saw a huge influx of renters.
And now that things have cooled down a bit.
Exactly. Some of those renters have moved on, so naturally you see a little dip in certain areas. It's all connected.
It's like a real estate ecosystem. Everything's influencing everything else. And speaking of interconnectedness, we got to talk about this whole rent-to-own thing that's been popping up. You mentioned this earlier, and it feels like a whole other layer of this Miami mystery.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Even in the luxury market, we're seeing more and more of these rent-to-own arrangements. Basically, a chunk of your rent goes towards eventually buying the property.
So kind of like a built-in savings plan for a down payment.
Exactly. It's appealing for a lot of people who maybe aren't ready to commit to buying in this market, or maybe they want to lock in a price for the future.
Makes sense. It makes you wonder, though, does this signal a bigger shift in how we think about luxury living? Is it becoming less about straight-up ownership and more about having options?
That's a really interesting thought, and honestly, that's what's so fascinating about this deep dive. The luxury rental market, even in a place like Miami, it's way more complex than it seems on the surface.
So listeners, what does all of this mean for you? Here's the bottom line.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about renting in Miami, especially in the luxury market, don't just get swept up by the glitz and glam. Do your research.
Absolutely. Look beyond the fancy name and the prime location. Check the building's age. Dig into those potential assessments. Figure out how seasonal trends might impact your investment. Knowledge is power, people.
Preach. And don't be afraid to ask the tough questions. The more you know, the better positioned you are to make a smart decision in this crazy, ever-changing Miami market.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Because Miami, like any real estate market, it's always evolving.
Which, speaking of evolving, brings us to our final thought for today, this whole rent-to-own thing in the luxury market. Is it just a blip, or could it be a sign of something bigger? Are we witnessing a fundamental shift in how people view luxury and ownership? Something to ponder.
Definitely something to keep an eye on, that's for sure.
As always, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll keep bringing you the insights you need to navigate this wild world of real estate. Until next time.